Somewhere in Gotham, a man puts on a cape. He has spent more than $680 million just this year on gadgets, vehicles, and keeping a city alive. Most people assume he is the richest hero in comics. Most people are wrong. Wealth in the DC universe is stranger, older, and far more complicated than any Forbes list can capture. One character has been quietly compounding his fortune for 50,000 years. Another rules an underwater kingdom worth more than every nation on Earth combined, and yet owns almost nothing personally. Another built his empire through manipulation so sophisticated that even his allies could not tell where the company ended and the crime began. By the end of this, you will know exactly who sits at the top, and why the answer is almost certainly not the man in the cape. Before we count a single dollar, we need one rule that reshapes this entire list. There is a critical difference between personal wealth and sovereign wealth. Personal wealth is what you own: your businesses, your accounts, your real estate. Sovereign wealth belongs to a nation or institution, not to the individual who governs it. Oliver Queen inherited Queen Industries, a major arms and technology manufacturing conglomerate, and for a time looked like a genuine contender. But Oliver has a habit of losing what he builds. A hostile takeover stripped him of the company mid-career, and he never fully reclaimed it. His rebuilt fortune sits in the low single-digit billions, placing him firmly in the billionaire class, but at the very back of this particular room. The story of Oliver Queen is not the story of how wealth grows. It is the story of what happens when principle keeps colliding with profit. Maxwell Lord is a name most casual fans would not expect on this list. He did not build a company the way Wayne or Queen did. He accumulated wealth through corporate manipulation, leveraged buyouts, and financial coercion, buying control of struggling companies, extracting value, and moving on before the damage became visible. The proof that his fortune was real? He personally financed the Justice League International out of his own pocket. That is not a small gesture. We estimate his personal net worth at $4 to $6 billion, but his methods were deliberately opaque, so that number carries significant uncertainty. Ra's al Ghul is approximately 600 to 700 years old, and he has spent every one of those years building. His wealth is not a salary, it is centuries of accumulated investment, stolen state assets, and criminal network revenue funneled into personal holdings. The complicating factor is that much of what he controls belongs to the League of Assassins as an organization, not to Ra's as a private individual. Strip away the institutional layer, and you are left with a personal fortune we estimate conservatively at $10 to $15 billion. Michael Holt, Mr. Terrific, is the most underestimated name on this entire list. He inherited a technology fortune and grew it aggressively, and DC has canonically placed him among its wealthiest characters. His proprietary T-sphere technology alone would command extraordinary valuations in any real-world market. We estimate his personal net worth at $15 to $20 billion. He does not rank higher because his business empire, while genuinely significant, lacks the global scale and diversification of the names above him. He is the billionaire most people in this genre have never seriously discussed. Now let us talk about Aquaman, because this is where the sovereign wealth rule does the most dramatic work. Arthur Curry is king of Atlantis, a civilization sitting beneath every ocean on Earth, controlling mineral deposits and rare earth elements that no surface nation can touch. The gross number would be incomprehensible, but those resources belong to the Atlantean state, not to Arthur Curry personally. Strip away the sovereign assets, and what remains is a man with relatively modest personal wealth. The contrast between his power and his personal fortune is one of the strangest facts in all of comics. Black Adam rules Kahndaq, and the same sovereign distinction applies. His national treasury is real. His military is real. But unlike Aquaman, Black Adam has operated independently of Kahndaq at various points in his history, accumulating personal assets that predate and exist outside his current rule. That personal layer is what earns him this position. We estimate his personal net worth, separate from sovereign assets, at roughly $20 to $30 billion. He ranks above Ross and Holt because the personal wealth is demonstrably real and historically accumulated, not just institutional. Vandal Savage is over 50,000 years old. He has operated under dozens of aliases, financed wars and political upheavals across the entire span of recorded human history, and accumulated wealth in every civilization that ever mattered. Now consider compound interest, the mechanism where money earns returns, and those returns earn their own returns, growing exponentially over time. Even a modest early deposit, compounded across 50,000 years, produces numbers that break conventional financial modeling entirely. Conservatively, and that word is doing enormous work here, his personal fortune is estimated at $50 billion or more. The reason he does not rank higher is that much of his wealth is illiquid, locked in historical assets and identities that are genuinely difficult to monetize in the modern financial system. Forbes placed Lex Luthor's net worth at $12 billion in 2013. But that was over a decade ago, and LexCorp has not stood still. LexCorp spans defense contracting, pharmaceuticals, real estate, and energy. Imagine a single company that is simultaneously a major defense contractor, a global pharmaceutical giant, and an oil conglomerate. Luthor is not just the chief executive. He is the controlling shareholder, the chief scientist, and in many arcs the sole decision maker. His annual income from defense contracts alone would dwarf most national budgets. That is a different kind of control than simply running a company. Adjusting for growth, diversification, and the full canonical scope of his operations, we estimate Luthor's personal net worth at $50 to $75 billion. He ranks third because two characters, on the best available evidence, demonstrably surpass even this staggering figure. The Forbes estimate of $9.2 billion for Bruce Wayne has always felt like a deliberate undercount. Think about what Wayne Enterprises actually is: defense technology, aerospace, biotech, financial services, real estate across a city the size of New York. Lucius Fox runs day-to-day operations, which means Bruce retains full ownership while drawing almost no conventional salary. He is the rare billionaire whose personal spending is the proof of his income, not a paycheck. He rebuilt Gotham during No Man's Land with what appeared to be unlimited personal capital. His operational costs alone exceeded $680 million in a single year. Those are spending numbers, not income numbers. The income has to be far larger. Accounting for the full scope of Wayne Enterprises, his real estate holdings, and his inherited family assets, we estimate Bruce Wayne's personal net worth at $100 to $150 billion. He is, by any honest accounting, one of the wealthiest individuals in the history of fiction. But he is number two. That sentence probably just made you pause. The reason comes down to a single variable: certainty. And what happens when we apply the sovereign wealth rule one final time to the character sitting above him? Vandal Savage's 50,000-year fortune is theoretically incomprehensible, but we have to be honest about canonical clarity. His historical assets are real in the comics, but they are almost impossible to value or treat as liquid, accessible personal wealth in the modern sense. So here is the final ranking. Number 1, Bruce Wayne, $100 to $150 billion. Number 2, Lex Luthor, $50 to $75 billion. Number 3, Vandal Savage, $50 billion or more with high uncertainty. Number 4, Black Adam, $20 to $30 billion personal. Number 5, Michael Holt at $15 to $20 billion. Number 6, Ra's al Ghul at $10 to $15 billion personal. Number 7, Maxwell Lord at 4 to 6 billion. Number 8, Oliver Queen in the low single-digit billions. Numbers 9 and 10 go to Ted Cord and Booster Gold, both below 1 billion in reliable personal assets, but both belong in the conversation. Honorable mentions go to Amanda Waller, who controls vast government budgets but holds virtually no personal wealth, and to Arthur Curry, whose sovereign assets would top this list by a factor of 10, but whose personal fortune is negligible by comparison. The biggest surprise on this list is Michael Holt. He is consistently overlooked in fan discussions, but the canonical evidence places him comfortably inside the top 5. If DC ever gave him a full solo series built around his business empire, he would instantly become one of the most compelling characters in the universe. The most controversial ranking is Vandal Savage at number 3. Some analysts would put him at number 1 based purely on the mathematics of 50,000 years of compound interest. That argument is genuinely defensible. The counter-argument is that illiquid historical assets are not the same as accessible personal wealth. The estimated combined personal wealth of the top 10 comes to somewhere between $250 and $350 billion. That is roughly equivalent to the gross domestic product of a mid-sized nation, generated entirely by fictional characters. For visual comparisons in a documentary format, show a timeline of Vandal Savage's wealth accumulation laid against the entire history of human civilization, from the first cave paintings to the present day. Watch the number stay flat for 49,000 years, then explode. Map Wayne Enterprises divisions side by side against real Fortune 500 companies. Wayne Aerospace next to Boeing, Wayne Biotech next to Pfizer, Wayne Financial next to Goldman Sachs. The scale becomes viscerally real when the fictional company has a real-world twin for every division. Show a split screen of Atlantis's sovereign mineral resources on one side, incomprehensible wealth, and Arthur Curry's personal bank balance on the other, near zero. The contrast alone tells the story better than any narration could. And place the original Forbes fictional wealth list next to the corrected ranking from this video, side by side. Viewers will immediately see where the conventional wisdom went wrong, and why the man most people assume is richest does not actually hold the top position. We began with a man putting on a cape and spending $680 million in a single year. That number felt impossible then. But now you understand something most people who read these comics never stop to consider. The cape is not the expensive part. The company behind the cape, the decades of ownership, the aerospace patents, the biotech divisions, the real estate in a city the size of New York. That is where the real wealth lives. Bruce Wayne is not rich because he is Batman. Batman exists because Bruce Wayne is rich in a way that almost no fictional character and almost no real person has ever been. The money is not the costume. The money is the reason the costume is possible at all.